Tonight, we find out why Myles Sanderson was released from custody just months before Canada's worst mass stabbing. Also, is your measles vaccination up to date? SHA says it's time to get boosted. Plus, big fines for bear spray in public places in Saskatchewan cities.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, March 12th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. The results of an investigation into the statutory release from custody and supervision of Myles Sanderson have been released. Sanderson killed 11 people at the community of James Smith Cree Nation and Weldon in September of 2022. The investigative board laid out 14 recommendations, and Dane Patterson has more on their findings.
There was nothing, no events, no indications that corrections staff or parole board staff knew about that could have prevented the massacre in rural Saskatchewan in September 2022. That was the big message from the Joint Investigation's final report. It also found Myles Sanderson's case preparation was reasonable and appropriate, despite his propensity for violence. The investigation board was composed of Canada's Correctional Service, Parole Board, and 2 external co-chairs. The report was released in the weeks and months following 2 inquests into Sanderson's death and the stabbing massacre. Both looked deeply into Sanderson's past. He received statutory release in August 2021, a little more than a year before the mass stabbing. A post-mortem behavioral analysis found Sanderson showed severe traits of a psychopath. Officials with the parole board wouldn't say if that was something they knew of or if it played a role in their release decision, but that they do take all available information into account as well as public safety. Now they move on to the 14 recommendations they say that they're implementing. 4 are directed to the Correctional Service of Canada and 10 to the Parole Board. The corrections recommendations like policy to address mental health assessment of suicide for offenders. Both received recommendations related to addressing domestic violence. 1, to consider providing training around domestic violence to parole board members to aid decision making. That's something that came up in the inquest as well. Sanderson had a history of abusing his former partner. But James Smith Cree Nation says it wasn't included in the development of the report or its recommendations. In a statement, it vented its frustration that it should have been, given the report is about one of its band members and concerns their community. It says it was only allowed to see the report on Monday. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The Saskatchewan School Board Association and the provincial government are facing criticism. It follows allegations that trustees were given just 24 hours to vote on a new agreement. The agreement in question is a new deal between the province and the SSBA. The government will provide school boards with $335 million over 4 years. But the SDF says trustees are disappointed with the tight deadline to make a decision.
Many of them had concerns about it, but with such little time and opportunity to pose questions in contradiction to that, they really didn't have any opportunity but to follow the direction of their provincial leadership.
What I'll say there is that every school board was given the opportunity to consider this agreement. There are opinions out there, and yeah, we won't be speaking to those individuals.
SDF President Samantha Beacott says trustees were persuaded heavily to endorse the agreement. The agreement comes as the bargaining between the province and the STF stays at an impasse. The new funding is to come into effect next school year. The Saskatchewan Health Authority is urging everyone to stay on top of their immunizations. That includes the measles. Alexander Kwan has more on why and what you need to know.
Measles is making a return to Canada. In 1998, Canada achieved elimination status for measles. Endemic transition was no longer taking place, and that means it was no longer consistently being found in the country. But several cases have been detected in Quebec and Ontario. In Saskatchewan, a single case was confirmed earlier this year, linked back to travel. With an increasing presence, the Saskatchewan Health Authority says it's critical to have up-to-date vaccinations.
If someone with measles walks into a room and there's 10 people that's susceptible, so they're not protected, about 9 of the 10 will get the measles. So it's one of the most contagious diseases that we do have.
Measles is a virus. That means it can't reproduce without a host. People who catch it often end up with a fever, a cough, a runny nose, and irritability. After a few days, white spots can appear in the back of the mouth, and then a red blotchy rash shows up.
Really important, this is not a mild disease. It can have serious, very long-term consequences, including death.
The measles vaccine is normally provided in 2 doses, at 1 year and at 18 months. Anyone born before 1970 is considered immune because they were likely exposed in childhood. But if you were planning to travel internationally and you were born between 1957 and 1969, you're eligible for a free 3rd booster dose. That's if you've got 2 doses of the MMR vaccine. Not sure if you've had it? The SHA is encouraging everyone to register for My Sask health record.
If they cannot register, or if they're not sure from My Sask health record what it means, they please need to contact their local public health office to assist them with that, to look it up and see if they're one of those individuals that need to get immunized.
So why is this an issue? Simply a drop in immunization rates. In Saskatchewan, the rate for measles is 90%. It needs to be at 95% to reach herd immunity, according to the SHA. That's why they say it's important now, more than ever, to check if you've been vaccinated. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The Sask Party government continues to preview what we'll see in next week's budget. This morning, Premier Scott Moe, Health Minister Everett Hindley, and Area MLA Terry Jensen were in Warman to talk about expanding the roles of nurse practitioners. Nurse practitioners can perform advanced health assessments, diagnose health problems, order diagnostic tests, prescribe medications, and admit and discharge patients. Last August, a nurse practitioner-run health clinic opened in the city just outside Saskatoon. Its success is prompting the government to create a pilot model of independently operated, publicly funded nurse practitioner clinics. The government is also funding 25 new positions.
Providing and creating more of these opportunities, getting more types of different healthcare providers involved in primary care, it provides more options for patients, but it also takes off some of that workload. We then have, what we're hoping to do is sort of load level the needs for patients and the impact that has on primary care and create those opportunities for people.
There'd be no fees paid out of pocket for individuals to access the 25 additional positions that we're talking about here, or any of the further expansions that we're looking at in utilizing nurse practitioners to enhance the healthcare services that we're offering, all publicly funded.
There have also been 10 additional training seats added in the province, which brings the total to 50 each year. A second nurse practitioner clinic is scheduled to open in Martensville in April. That new clinic, along with the existing one in Warman, is not a part of this new pilot announced today. Hindley says they hope to have 1 or 2 new clinics under the pilot, but more details and cost will come out in the budget. That's scheduled to be released next Wednesday.
It's pretty exciting just to see the variety, the depth, and the diversity of businesses that are happening here. It's an eye-opener for everybody that attends, so it's a great event.
A conference for Indigenous business owners is exploding in popularity and was also attended by the Premier today. More than 700 people attended the Indigenous business gathering at Saskatoon's Prairieland Park today. They say a thriving Indigenous business sector is good for everyone. It's a chance for people to network and find new markets. The businesses covered all sectors, from mining to food to manufacturing. New regulations now restrict the possession of bear spray in public urban spaces in our province. That means a person cannot legally carry it in places like malls, theaters, urban parks, and exhibition grounds. Those charged with possession could face fines of up to $100,000. The new rules come with a reason. Justice Minister Bron Wanair says there have been more than 3,000 incidents involving bear spray in Saskatchewan in the last 5 years.
I mean, people are facing fear, frankly, for their public safety in urban areas. And I referenced, a food court emptied twice in one afternoon for 2 separate uses of bear spray. I mean, we're seeing these things in a number of areas in cities, and I think that success means fewer to none of those going forward.
The new regulations don't apply to rural or northern areas where bear spray is typically used for safety purposes. They also don't apply to conservation officers, hunters, and hikers who require protection from wildlife in their jobs or recreation activities. People are allowed to transport it from a store to wherever it can be legally stored, like at home or to a camper. There is growing concern tonight about the mental health of Canada's Mounties. A new report suggests RCMP officers are suffering more and more. Sam Sampson looks at those worries not just for the individual members, but for the force itself.
Pelican Narrows, Creighton, Deschambault Lake, Green
Pick
Lake,
any
Odell,
detachment in Saskatchewan, and RCMP Sergeant Joy Prince has been there.
Melfort from the James Smith, Humboldt from the Humboldt Broncos crash.
The sergeant leads mental health programs for Saskatchewan RCMP members, helping them with things like depression, anxiety, panic, and worse.
I have had to help assist with suicidal employees. We're humans first, and taking care of ourselves and our mental health will benefit not just us, but will benefit our families.
Now, a new report suggests Prince's job is needed more than ever. University of Regina researchers found 65% of RCMP officers showed signs of one or more mental health disorder. 5 years ago, it was 50%. The report, paid for by the Mounties Union, suggests RCMP officers are 6 times more likely than other Canadians to have a mental health disorder.
If we don't address those kinds of challenges, we end up at increased risk for the officers having any number of different kinds of compounding challenges. So they could end up off on leave, in which case we're reducing the number of officers that we have available.
Researchers suggest that increase could be due to factors like a record high number of unfilled positions, the pandemic, and more natural disasters forcing officers to do more with less. But also possibly a culture shift, more officers just sharing how they feel. The union hopes this report pushes the RCMP to increase existing programs and access to help like online counseling.
It's not just with the RCMP, it's right across all first responders. And it highlights the fact that, hey, okay, there's something going on in these services here and we need to figure out what it is.
The RCMP says it takes mental health injuries seriously. In a statement, the police force described several ongoing programs and pilots, including its own process to get members back to work after traumatic events. The union says that's great, but the ask is for more, a request the RCMP says it's reviewing. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
Well, a much clearer day in Saskatoon after a very foggy start to your Tuesday. But with the overcast sky, it didn't brighten up very much. It sounds like we will see the return of fog tonight. Ethan will have more in your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's an anniversary that no one really wants to celebrate. A rescue dog named Wonton is marking 2 years in care. The puppy nearly starved to death before he was taken in by CC Rescues in Regina. That was 738 days ago. Wonton was put into foster care, nursed back to health, and eventually put up for adoption in December of 2022. But 15 months later, he is still waiting for a forever home. His foster mom says he's a loyal, loving dog, and she can't believe that no one scooped him up yet.
He has dog friends who he adores. He has humans who he is obsessed with. He loves very, very hard. He just needs time in a new home to settle in and get used to either the dogs or the people. So if anyone has space in their heart to practice a little patience with this 2.5-year-old Staffy Lab, you will not regret it. He's truly the best.
Wonton is not the only dog in Saskatchewan who's been waiting months, even a year, to get adopted. In many cases, the dogs have special needs or behavioral issues that make them a little harder to place. If you're interested in adopting, you can contact your local shelter or animal rescue group.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. I feel like it's going to be a while before I can safely wash my vehicle. And at this point, we're just building layer upon layer upon layer of gunk.
Yeah, save your money, maybe for a little while. Couple of months, it's that time of year. We just get the rain, the slush, the snow. We've seen a lot of things today in the province, and the radar reflects that. Some rain moving through Regina earlier today. That is moving off to the east. And as we get into some of the colder air to the north, specifically along the Yellowhead Highway, that is mostly falling as snow. A few flakes falling in Saskatoon today. And now we have our next little area of rain, which is moving into southwestern Saskatchewan and along that western stretch of the Trans-Canada corridor. Big stretch in temperatures today, up around -10 still in the north, but still close to 10 degrees in portions of southwestern Saskatchewan. And you can really see where the snow is still on the ground here. Sharp temperature drop off as you get into places like Regina and Yorkton. And again, that's where that rain is changing over to snow as we see surface temperatures just a bit closer to freezing. Now, speaking of the rain and the snow, likely going to continue to see that to move eastward through the night tonight. This area of low pressure just skirting by early tomorrow morning, going to move that moisture along the Trans-Canada. Regina, we could see maybe even a bit of freezing rain at times. And it's not just us, but areas right along the Trans-Canada corridor through the overnight areas. That remains a possibility before that changes over to basically snow by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon in the Parkland region. And then our attention turning to our next system, which is moving into northern Saskatchewan later on Thursday evening and into early Friday morning. This particular model showing mostly snowfall moving through a good chunk of the north, but could be rain at times as temperatures will still be warm. That's out of here largely by Friday as we see clearing in southern Saskatchewan. If it falls as snow, good 5 centimeters in north central and northeastern parts of the province. That same area, if it falls as rain, looking for around 5 millimeters on average. And that, of course, will be a concern for some freezing rain there too. But that's still a couple of days away. In the meantime, the immediate concern for south and central is another night of fog. And again, near zero visibility at times, and that could move southward as we get into the morning hours. So again, some stubborn patches of fog for the morning commute, definitely a possibility. Early Thursday morning, it's looking like west central Saskatchewan will start to see that fog move in, and it'll be a concern in that part of the province. But for Regina, we're not really expecting much moisture here, but again, a chance of the rain, snow, freezing rain, messy mix again tomorrow. Still cloudy Thursday before clearing Friday, but it'll get windy as it gets warm as well. Sharp drop off in temperatures, and we're just riding that temperature seesaw into the beginning of next week as well. Saskatoon, we're about normal for this time of year for the next couple of days. Less of a chance of some flurries for you folks tomorrow, but that still remains a possibility. Still think you'll be mostly cloudy, and then a warm up with the clearing skies into the weekend. But yes, Sam, the caveat still remains: no car washes for now.
And Stubborn Patches would be an excellent name for a band.
There you go. Snowflakes, freezing rain maybe too.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
We'll be back after the break. Well, she may not have won an Oscar on Sunday night, but actress Lily Gladstone made her mark. The Indigenous performer has been making history throughout this award season. And as Magda Gabrisalasa tells us, she's been sharing the spotlight on the red carpet with Indigenous designers.
Lily, can we have you on this way?
Lily Gladstone's red carpet looks stunned and inspired, putting Indigenous designers on the same stage as some of the world's best-known luxury brands.
I am wearing Joe Big Mountain with Gucci.
The Killers of the Flower Moon Star has made awards season history. The Siksagate Setapi and Namipu actor is the first Indigenous performer to win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Drama, and the first to earn the SAG Award for an outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role. Along the way, in magazines and on the red carpet, she's been wearing Indigenous designs, bringing the bling in beaded jewelry and striking a pose in standout looks. Among those that made the cut to dress the star is Anishinaabe designer Leslie Hampton. Hampton, who is based in Toronto, designed this look worn by Gladstone in Variety magazine.
So this is what we sent.
And this dress as an option for the star to consider for the Oscars.
It's so exciting to be able to have that connection with Lily and to celebrate her massive achievements and moments that are happening right now, not only for her, but for Indigenous people.
And it's an exciting time for the many Indigenous designers tapping into new or traditional methods.
You'll see that with like quill work and bead work and ribbon skirts.
Sage Paul says what's happening in fashion right now is monumental.
To see Indigenous made garments and fashion and accessories on the red carpets, on the runways, even Indigenous models, it's inspiring. We can see younger generations seeing themselves represented in those spaces.
They too could one day make their own mark on future award seasons to come. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Yeah, and Ethan's back with one last look at your gloomy weather.
Yeah, still gloomy, still rainy, still possibly freezing rain, and some fog. We'll add that in there too for the midnight in Regina, just below freezing. We're not going to drop very low overnight, so by the time we get to 8 a.m. tomorrow, again, still foggy at times, around -3. Winds pretty light though as well, and by the afternoon should be seeing that fog clear away. We're seeing mostly cloudy skies and another chance of some rain or snow a little bit later into the afternoon as well as things cloud over. Saskatoon, pretty consistent forecast. We start with scattered flurries this evening. We still have scattered flurries tomorrow morning at around -3. And then you guessed it, we still have scattered flurries by the noon hour. Temperatures not changing all that much. Winds picking up a little bit though as we head into the afternoon. Scattered flurries, by the way, Sam, the opening act for Stubborn Patches.
Oh, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Before we leave you tonight, no more puns. The annual Pelican Watch has began. For people in Saskatoon, the return of the American white pelican is a sign of spring. Every year, people try to guess when the first one was splashed down on the South Saskatchewan River. CBC's new podcast, Good Question Saskatchewan, spoke to a local wildlife expert about why we should all love these giant birds.
I absolutely love them, and they're one of my favorite birds. When I see pelicans, it's the feeling of, okay, we're done. We're done with winter. Here are the pellies, and I am always happy to see them, and I look forward to the minute of seeing them. I love them. I love them very much. I'm the clinic manager here at Salthaven West in Regina, Saskatchewan. We do have a lot of intakes for American white pelicans, which are in our in and around our city throughout the breeding season. Some of them come in with injuries that need medical attention or surgeries. Others just come in because they're stranded or because they have migration fatigue. They're wonderful, beautiful animals. They have, their feathers, their face, the eyes. The eyes are so wonderful. They have very expressive eyes. The hook in their bill, at the end of the bill, and how precise they are with it. They can pick up the tiniest things with those beaks, and you wouldn't think about that, but they do. They're very very delicate. Some of them try to get you with their bill, which is what they would do. But we have ways to handle them and stuff to protect ourselves, and we have some personal protective equipment that we sometimes have to use. But in general, they're pretty good, and they're very good patients. They're very smart. They just have an overall aura around them that I have a lot of respect for them. I'm so happy and so grateful to be able to even be in a province that has them.
And you can listen to our new podcast, Good Question Saskatchewan, anywhere you find your podcasts. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask. You can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel or download the CBC News app. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.